We just saw one of the closest finishes in all of motorsports history, not just NASCAR history. Yeah, we're going to break it all down today. Plus, everything that happened in the Xfinity and truck race, why Logano might be, out a few points. Same with Stewart-Haas Racing again in 2024. And is the new deal from NASCAR and the teams finally going to be accepted, or is it back to the drawing board?
High, push it, checker flag, hell yeah!
What's the caution for?
Mate, can I not push it in?
Stop anybody.
Come on, he's going! Way to go, boys! One hell of a job, man, one hell of a job. Thank you so much.
It is a shifting gears for a post-race edition of the first race out at Atlanta Motor Speedway in 2024. Woo! I'm like blown away. How did that get there? Oh, look at that. Joey Logano, we're going to talk about it. I'm Alan Bailey. Make sure that you mash that subscribe button so that you do not miss a video throughout the entire season. And of course, log on to arnrace.com for the latest motorsports news. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. So much to talk about, legitimately. I'm like blown away by that finish. The entire internet's blown away by that finish that we saw at Atlanta. 3-wide finish, in case you missed it. 57 race winless streak for Daniel Suarez snapped at Atlanta this weekend. It was the closest finish in NASCAR, one of the closest finishes in NASCAR history. 3 1,000ths of a second to the 12 car in second, and 7 1,000ths of a second to the 8 car that finished third in the middle of that 3-wide sandwich. Oh, by the way, it's the closest finish we've seen in NASCAR Cup Series competition since Talladega in 2011, and the third closest finish in all of NASCAR history since timing and scoring, and the closest 1-2-3 finish in all of motorsports history, beating out the second closest, which was the 2003 IndyCar race at Chicago, which was separated by just 1/100th of a second. Just absolutely nuts that we set motorsports history over the weekend. And yes, we're going to talk about Joey Logano's sticky tape glove and why this is essentially going to cost him and why this got him the pole in the Daytona 500. Oh boy. But let's talk about the race first. Day started off great for Michael McDowell, who got his first ever NASCAR Cup Series pole, and Todd Gilliland, because of Joey Logano going to the back for his sticky tape situation, ended up being the first ever front row for Front Row Motorsports, which was pretty damn cool. Todd Gilliland had a pretty damn good little race right there too. Just had some problems on his final pit stop right there. Finished in the back. Not indicative of Todd Gilliland's race. We're going to talk about that, but I want to talk about the lap 3 crash first. Oh man, Josh Williams. I feel so bad for him, but at the same time, he's the guy who's trying to smack talk, lack of talent in the Cup Series. This is a guy who's made 2 laps of Cup Series competition, and the only reason he's doing it is because he literally threw a temper tantrum at Atlanta a couple of years ago, and for some reason that warrants him a Cup Series ride for a handful of races and a full-time Xfinity ride with what would have been a pretty well-funded team at one point in the past. I hate it when we see crashes early on. I really do. It's kind of a personal pet peeve of mine, but that's racing, unfortunately, especially pack racing like we see at Atlanta now. One of the other big stories of the race, the fact that we saw so many speeding penalties. It's a little ridiculous. And here's what is different about Atlanta Motor Speedway than other forms of NASCAR tracks. The fact that there are 2 essentially pit road speed limits, which makes absolutely no sense to me. You have the actual pit road speed limit, which is the same as every other NASCAR Cup Series track, but for some reason, NASCAR decided to move the commitment cone to the entrance of turns 3 and 4 on the backstretch. I love the idea. Go ahead, keep that, NASCAR. However, I don't think NASCAR should be regulating what speed drivers are driving on the apron in 3 and 4 to get to pit road. I don't care. If you think you can hold it down at 150 miles an hour, try it, because it is slippery. It is wild down there. I get it. NASCAR had to put that 90 mile an hour speed limit for safety reasons, but don't dock guys for speeding through 3 and 4. That's not pit road. There's no personnel on the racetrack like there is on pit road. It makes no sense to dock drivers for speeding through 3 and 4 when some of them arguably could probably hold 120, 130 through there. But It just doesn't make sense. NASCAR, don't ding these guys for speeding on the apron, essentially. I don't think there is such a thing, honestly. Let them go as fast as they want to go. NASCAR doesn't regulate drivers coming off pit road for the same reason, or they shouldn't at least. So back off NASCAR on these speeding penalties on the apron of 3 and 4. It makes no sense to me. The commitment cone is one thing, but once you're on pit road where people are on pit road and there is a danger, you need to regulate the speed a little bit better down there. Michael McDowell went ahead and picked up the victory in stage number 1. Austin Cindric got the victory in stage number 2 under caution. And then we fast forward to lap 135. We saw green flag pit stops, and because of guys getting woed down on the back straightaway, getting onto the apron in 3 and 4 to get to pit road, we saw Michael McDowell get loose and unfortunately spin into Byron and take each other out. They both spun on the apron, but the big key factor, the big key difference here is that neither one of them re-entered the racetrack. They both stayed down on the apron. I applaud NASCAR for this decision. A lot of people were like, oh, where's the caution on this? Why haven't we seen a caution? No. Why? Y'all hate cautions. And why? Those drivers were on the apron, stopped. Why is that a caution? That's not the racing surface. Yes, it was under green flag pit stops. However, they both got it corrected and then got going and got to their pit stalls and got their service done. So why does that warrant a caution? I'm being serious. Explain it to me, because I don't understand it. Why, in God's name, does that warrant a caution? Oh, because cars are stopped on the racetrack? No, they're not. They're stopped on the apron. That's not a danger. Cars are going fast on the racing surface, not on the apron. What's your next argument? Seriously, leave it in the comments. I need you to explain this irrational thought to me, because I don't understand it. We saw a handful of cautions throughout the race, but the big one happened on lap 241 when we saw the red flag for the Briscoe-Hamlin fiasco. Denny Hamlin sending it 4 wide, and I can't believe I'm saying that, 4 wide at Atlanta. Holy crap, I was blown away by that, sincerely. I didn't think it could be done. I did not think it would be stable. I didn't think physically it could be done with the amount of space, but these guys honestly continue to impress me with their driving skills. I know I give them flack, but the moves in the closing laps honestly gave me old Daytona vibes. If you're unaware of what I mean by that, a few years ago, Daytona International Speedway was repaved from its original 59 pavement, and we went from a very bumpy racetrack. You could see drivers in there bumping around, having to really work on the handling of their cars at Daytona, to it being glass smooth where you don't really have to worry about the handling so much. Atlanta is getting those handling characteristics in. I cannot wait to see what racing is going to look like at Atlanta Motor Speedway 5 to 10 years from now. Sincerely, when that pavement wears in, and there's already patches in it, the crews have already gone out there and fixed patches of it due to one issue here or there or another, and I can't wait to see what this one looks like. Sincerely, we remember what Atlanta used to be like, how it was bumpy, how it had so much characteristic. And I do think that that's coming back. I think it's just a matter of time before we see that again. But Atlanta is starting to look like old Daytona, and I absolutely love it. I'm absolutely here for it. iRacing, please rescan it so I can go run it, because I want to run it really badly. I think it looks super damn fun, and I want to have some fun at New Atlanta. It looks great. And I can't wait to see what it's going to look like 5-10 years from now when it's really aged in. That's going to be just chef's kiss. I felt bad for Briscoe because he really had a run right there, and he had a shot at a really, really, really good finish that Stewart-Haas Racing desperately needs, and we're going to get into that. And then inevitably right there at the end, we saw some phenomenal racing for the top spot. 3 wide finish right there at the line. PRN called Ryan Blaney the winner, and then the scoring updated, and no, it was Daniel Suarez getting the victory by just ever so slightly, and that is going to go down as early race of the year contender right there. It's going to be extremely hard to top this. Honestly, it's possible when we go back to Atlanta in a few months here, but I don't know. This is the race of the year contender very early on, which is saying something. No doubt in my mind that this is going to be a popular win. Daniel Suarez is a fan favorite, and honestly, if I hear anybody say, oh, the Amigos one more time, congratulations, you know one word in Spanish. But sincerely, Suarez getting this victory takes a lot of that pressure off him of will he re-sign with Trackhouse. I don't know if this necessarily guarantees him a ride. A lot of people are saying, oh, that saved his job at Trackhouse. It saved his Cup Series career. No, I don't think it did. It did not hurt it. Let's be very frank with that. But making the playoffs this early on in the season is a huge weight off of Suarez's shoulders. And it's honestly a little bit of a weight off of Trackhouse's shoulders, because now they only have to focus on Chastain winning a race sometime over the course of the next 24 weeks. And I think that takes a lot of pressure off of Suarez, because it definitely means he can go out there, try some things, experiment with the setups, take the fuel only, take the no tires, take the 2-tire gamble here and there and try to rattle off another win. He gets another victory before the playoffs start. He's locked in for at least another year over at Trackhouse. But it's so early on, they're still negotiating. And to be frank, you do have Zane Smith and SVG waiting in the wings, and Suarez winning one race isn't necessarily a guarantee, but it's not a hindrance either for him extending over at Trackhouse. So I don't know. It doesn't necessarily shut everything up, but it definitely quiets down those conversations a little bit. Very quickly, talking about the Xfinity and the truck race. We will talk about the Xfinity race a little bit more in the new Xfinity show that we're doing. That is still needing a name, unfortunately. Go ahead and drop your comments down below. What should we call the show where we talk NASCAR Xfinity Series racing exclusively every week here on the channel? Can't have the word NASCAR in it. Can't have the word Xfinity in it for legal reasons. So leave it in the comments down below. And I refuse to put my name in it. Somebody said the Bailey Report. No. I refuse to put my name in any show that I host, period. Leave it in the comments down below. What do you think the name of this NASCAR Xfinity Series show should be? But Austin Hill won an extremely bad race. I cannot describe how bad that was, but it was a very good nap. So honestly, I needed the nap, so thank you to the NASCAR Xfinity Series for the wonderful nap that I received on a Saturday afternoon for me here in California. It was much appreciated. But Austin Hill winning a race, I mean, meh. I mean, he's doing exactly what he does every single year. He peaks way too early in the season, and then when the playoffs start, he forgets which way is forward and literally gets dumped by his teammate, who probably has more talent than he does. But to Austin Hill's credit, he is one hell of a restrictor plate driver. I'm not going to take that away from him. It doesn't hurt that he's with RCR, which has one hell of an Xfinity program. But Jesse Love, man, holy crap, this kid is talented. I knew this guy was honestly going to come into the series and raise some eyebrows. I didn't think it was going to be this quick. This is scary good, and honestly, I'm waiting for Denny Hamlin to go ahead and sign Jesse Love to a contract to drive that third 2311 car next year, because I have a feeling it's coming, because how great would it be if Hamlin swapped up another RCR driver? I just think it would be amazingly hilarious, and I very much want it to happen. But we're going to go ahead and break down everything that happened during the Xfinity race, during the Xfinity Series show, which is going to be dropping either Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, probably Tuesday morning, so keep an eye out for that here on the channel. Kyle Busch winning in trucks with Spire Motorsports. Yeah, Kyle's good. The end. I mean, do we honestly need to sit here and rattle off the reasons why Kyle Busch is phenomenally good in the Truck Series? No. The Truck Series was, once again, a wreckfest shit show, and go figure, we've seen this before 1,000 times from them. And congratulations to Kyle Busch for keeping his Truck Series winning season alive. I love it for Spire. They very much need to win as many races as they can, because they purchased the building of Kyle Busch Motorsports, which has room for literally 200 trophies in the lobby, and they don't have that many wins so far, so fill up the trophy case. I mean, at this point, it's all you could do, so, I mean, congrats to Spire for legitimately getting a wonderful victory for them. All right, let's go ahead and talk about this. If you didn't see it, and it's coming apart on me, come on, gaffer tape, work for me. If you didn't see it, Joey Logano went ahead and created a webbing in his glove similar to this, except for some reason he put it on the inside of his glove, which made no sense to me. A lot of people were saying, well, what does this do? Why is this a big deal? Well, according to the NASCAR rulebook, this is modifying a safety feature. This glove, or at least the one Logano wears, is a safety feature to keep his hand safe in the event of a fire, and they cannot be modified. Even a design like this can't be done without prior NASCAR approval. Even coloring it in or something like that could technically break the rules. But what Logano did is, and the team did over at Penske, is they put some kind of taping or a netting in order to create kind of an amphibian thing here between the pointer and the thumb. What was the purpose of this? Well, when you go ahead and you do this, you create a smoother surface. So what he did is they did this essentially. As I fix my not great glove. Come on, we're low budget here. So you fill in that gap between the thumb and pointer finger so that when you put that up against the window and you can close more of a gap when qualifying at Daytona, Atlanta, and Talladega. It creates an aerodynamic advantage in this case, and it is perfectly legal for drivers to put their hand up and rest it in that opening between the A-post and the driver's window net, and Logano was doing that, but he was doing it with a webbed glove, which you cannot do. You got to take that off, and you can put your hand up like so, kind of closing it off to that opening in the car and create less drag to help the wind flow. I get what they were doing, I really do, but yeah, don't be so obvious. And it doesn't help that in the in-car footage from Joey Logano's Daytona 500 pole win, he immediately takes off that left glove and throws it down off camera. I'm not saying that he had the web glove at Daytona, but I'm saying there's about a 99% chance he had the web glove at Daytona and did a better job of hiding it there because he knew he had an in-car camera and for some reason got really stupid and forgot that he had the camera when they qualified at Atlanta this weekend. So NASCAR immediately had him drop to the rear. We're expecting a pretty hefty little penalty, probably in the $25,000 range and probably in the neighborhood of 10 driver owner points. We're going to have to wait and see what NASCAR has to say about this. But honestly, because it's safety equipment, NASCAR could take this severely more seriously, and he could be losing his crew chief for a few races, if not losing several more championship points that are extremely valuable to Team Penske at this point, and a lot more money. The money means absolutely nothing. You can charge these guys $100,000, and to a guy like Roger Penske, it means absolutely nothing. However, Stewart-Haas Racing, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for these guys. What are they thinking this early on? Trying things with the roof rails, just like last year. I mean, we knew this organization was in rebuild mode, but this is just stupidity. Like, they dug themselves such a massive hole. Stewart-Haas Racing had the roof rail deflectors taken from the 10 car and the 41 car. So Noah Gragson and Ryan Preece are both looking at pretty hefty penalties. I'm expecting $100,000 plus in fines, if not more, and a lot of points. And crew chiefs and car chiefs are probably going to be on vacation for 5 weeks here, and I'm sure Stewart-Haas Racing will probably appeal it, or maybe they're going to be smart and they won't. But, I mean, my gosh. Now, these rails are actually manufactured by the teams. It's one of the very few parts that is manufactured from the teams. So it shouldn't have that hefty of a fine attached to it in theory, but because it's a plate track, because it's so early on in the season, I see NASCAR dropping the hammer on them on this one. We should see the actual penalty being announced probably Tuesday morning. It could come as early as Monday morning, but I think that we're more than likely going to see this penalty announced first thing Tuesday morning, and it's not going to be a light one. And I mean, these two teams are already in a hole from a competition standpoint. I get that Daytona, Talladega, Atlanta are their best shots for victories. We saw the 14 car with one hell of a shot today, but didn't work out. And now Noah Gragson and Ryan Preece are both going to be in a deeper hole that they're going to have to dig themselves out of for the 2024 season. A major story that we've been following because it has such massive ramifications for the NASCAR Cup Series is the deal between NASCAR and the team owners, or known as the RTA. Now, the negotiation period unfortunately came to an end at the beginning of the new year. They added a 1-month extension between NASCAR and the teams, and at the end of that 1-month extension, on the 1st of February, the teams and NASCAR both collectively said, no, we're done negotiating. And lawyers have been hired in order to talk between NASCAR and the teams at this point. And now we're hearing reports from Adam Stern that NASCAR has offered a 7-year extension of the current deal. to the teams, basically saying that the charter system is not going to be permanent because for some reason NASCAR hates the word permanent. So instead, the teams are calling it evergreen because that makes NASCAR and Jim France feel better about themselves, apparently. I actually like the fact that this is a 7-year extension, but it essentially means we're going to put off these conversations for another 7 years. And I don't think the teams are necessarily going to take this. The teams need more money to operate at this point. We've already heard that top NASCAR Cup Series teams haven't made a profit in 10 years plus. That came from Jeff Gordon on the Dale Jr. Download last week. And I believe it. Some of you are saying, well, he's exaggerating. I don't think Jeff Gordon's exaggerating because looking at the business model right now, there hasn't been a whole lot of new sponsors coming into the sport, and this is a sport that requires $25 million plus a year per team in the Cup Series. Is there that much revenue being thrown around in the Cup Series right now? Ask Colleague Racing. It ain't happening. The teams want to move away from the traditional sponsorship model that would require significantly less money from outside sponsorships on the car, meaning that they would get some of that TV revenue to keep the doors open so that they wouldn't have to go to multiple sponsors per year, having a different paint scheme and a different sponsor on the car every single week. And in theory, we could go back to seeing one sponsor on the car for the entire 2025 season, in theory. But the teams are not really getting the back and forth negotiations that you would expect from NASCAR. Instead, Jim France and everybody at NASCAR said, this is the terms, this is the offer, take it or leave it. Meh. And that's not a negotiation at all. And the teams are frustrated. NASCAR seems to have put up a wall, and while there's no talk of the teams and NASCAR separating and the teams going off and starting their own series, so to speak, there's a lot of hostility right now and a lot of frustrations from the teams, and NASCAR has more or less dug their heels in at this point. It's great that NASCAR is putting that offer out there, but to be very, very, very blunt, this feels like NASCAR saying, here's what it is, take it or leave it. That's the deal. I just think that a 7-year deal is best case scenario at this point. I get it. NASCAR wants to tie this new deal with the teams in with the TV money because that makes the most sense. But at the same time, this essentially just puts off conversations for another 7 years. In 7 years, we're going to keep doing this old song and dance in the year 2030. And maybe Jim France will have stepped down by then and Ben Kennedy will have taken over NASCAR completely, and maybe he's a little bit more open to changes, but Jim France definitely and the France family definitely don't want to play ball with these teams, and it's a little old school when really the teams are the ones putting on the show. Yes, NASCAR is the one organizing it and keeping everything strict behind the scenes, but it's the teams, the drivers, the cars on the racetrack that are putting on the racing product, and NASCAR needs to realize that that's your product, and if you don't have a product, the TV deal is absolutely useless. And I think NASCAR is slowly but surely going to get that rude awakening if teams start boycotting and if teams pull an on-track stunt, which honestly at this point wouldn't surprise me. There was no talk of that during preseason, but now there's a lot more frustration happening over the course of the last few weeks. Anything could happen. One more bit of news, we found out over the weekend that Kyle Busch Motorsports is suing Rev Racing. Rev Racing had a deal with Kyle Busch Motorsports in order to supply drivers in those Kyle Busch Motorsports cars. And unfortunately, Rev Racing got behind on some of those payments, and they still owe Kyle Busch Motorsports a good amount of money. Yeah, Rev Racing basically came out and said, oh, it's an accounting error on our part. We're not out of money. Why do you ask? We'll go ahead and set this straight right away. I do think that this will come to an amicable conclusion for Kyle Busch Motorsports and Rev Racing, but Rev Racing's out of money. Further proof that the financial model in NASCAR across the top 3 series is completely broken and needs to be redone. Now it's time for one of my favorite segments of the show, and that is where we get to our hot topics. We open up our mailbag, our comments from all of the videos here on the channel get flooded into one inbox. We pick a few, read them, and we comment on them. So go ahead and leave your comments down below. Give me your hot takes. Let's go ahead and start with this one. Bring the Clash back to the Coliseum or bring it to Long Beach. That would be fun. I went to the LA Clash 2 times and had a blast. I would give it a 10 out of 10. My friend, I completely agree with you. I went all 3 years to the Coliseum race, the Clash at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. Love the atmosphere. The atmosphere is unlike any event I've ever gone to, sincerely. It has one part NASCAR race, one part concert feel, where everybody's just on top of each other. You have that amazing energy, and I want that back. Sincerely, I get that the Coliseum can probably never really host an actual points-paying race because of how small it is, because of the stakes, nor would I want it to. I think that having this race as the preseason LA Clash All-Star race combination is the ticket, because I've said this before, the All-Star race in NASCAR is stupid. It was a way to make more money and a way to get more people to go to the Charlotte area for the World 600 initially when it was started. And it makes no sense. We're going to pull all of the All-Stars together and put them in one race like you do every other week. 38 weekends a year in NASCAR. Makes no damn sense. Eliminate it, move that race, combined it with the Clash so that winners and pole sitters get into the main event and everybody else gets to race in the open for a chance to get to the main event. And then that open slot can actually host another points-paying race, Wilkesboro, The Rock, just saying. And it's awesome. NASCAR gets another points-paying event without losing another race date, so their profits don't go away, and teams have another week to essentially go out there and try to lock themselves into the playoffs or increase their playoff position with another victory. Win, win, win. Any updates on the Auto Club reconfiguration? Not really. NASCAR is still working on it. I'm hearing that they're going through artist renderings and designs and things like that and looking at the budget and things like that to try to get the final render done before they actually break ground on the new building of what will be the California Speedway, because remember, the Auto Club sponsorship ran out literally 2 days after the final race in 2023. So will the Fontana track come back? Yes, there is no doubt in my mind that it will come back. NASCAR did not keep all of that land, and they are not paying taxes on that land just to sell it off or not put a racetrack there. Hot take: at least one car from Front Row, Colleague, and Legacy will be in the playoffs this year. What? Are you insane? What? I mean, Front Row, I'll give you that one. Maybe they'll pick up a victory. Maybe they'll point their way in. They have a pretty good shot at it, especially Todd Gilliland after what we saw at Atlanta today. Same thing with Michael McDowell. Legacy probably have a shot at pointing their way in. I think they're going to be just on the outskirts, but they have a shot. They definitely have a shot. But Colleague? What are you smoking? Sincerely. Seriously, Daniel Hemrick is going to bring more driving talent than AJ Allmendinger? What? Are you insane? He brings more money than AJ Allmendinger because he's got some big pocket sponsors behind him, but he bought that ride. He's not a Cup Series driver. He's an Xfinity driver who bought the Cup Series ride from Colleague because Colleague's desperate for money, and same with Josh Williams, who can only last 2 laps at Atlanta. He's lasted 2 laps in his Cup Series career so far in 2 attempted starts. Yeah, that guy's got some real driving talent, all because he threw a temper tantrum one day when he got in an accident and he was too slow and he decided to park it on the front stretch out of Atlanta and threw a big temper tantrum, and everybody went, "Woo, he's got a mullet, I love him, he told NASCAR to screw you, woo!" That's the reason he deserves a Cup ride? What? I could tell NASCAR to go screw themselves and throw a temper tantrum on the racetrack and probably get banned from NASCAR. But does that warrant a Cup ride? No, not at all. I want to see Josh Williams succeed because I do think he's a good human being, but he is not a Cup driver. No way in hell. Best of luck to Colleague, but they are not going to finish top. They're not even going to finish top 25 in points this year. Mark my word. Maybe a 24th place points finish, maybe from Daniel Hemrick, but that's stretching it. But sincerely, the 16 car is going to finish probably dead last this year in the points. Driver owner, guaranteed. It's going to be a bad year for Colleague, man. I wish him all the luck. But go ahead and leave your hot takes in the comments down below. The question of the week I have for you for the next episode: who is the best Ford driver right now in the Cup Series in 2024. We're only 2 races in, but somebody said it was Joey Logano. I disagree. I think it might be Ryan Blaney just because of the momentum coming off of last year. But now, honestly, the argument is there for Todd Gilliland. Noah Gragson? I don't know. There's kind of a two-parter to this one. Raw driving talent. Probably a Noah Gragson or probably a Joey Logano. And then with the driver team combo right now, 2 races in, probably Ryan Blaney. But I want to hear what you have to say. Go ahead and leave it in the comments down below. And while you're there, make sure that you mash the subscribe button so that you don't miss a video in 2024. We have a brand new episode of the NASCAR Xfinity Series breakdown coming out on Tuesday here on the channel. And then Shifting Gears will be back with a brand new news episode coming out this Thursday. You do not want to miss those. Mash that subscribe button. And in between episodes, you can go ahead and log on to arnrace.com to keep up on all the latest motorsports news so that you don't miss anything. ARN, the Motorsports Authority. I want to thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. For Shifting Gears, I'm Alan Bailey. We'll see you at the track.